episode 2 of Squared Away. I'm your host, Bruno Silva, Vice President of Marketing at MC Squared, your go-to source for all things events, trade shows, experiential, and live marketing. On today's episode, it's going to be a fun one, maybe a bit terrifying. Next to me, I have the lovely, talented Jazmine Toner, and next to her, the man, the myth, the legend of our industry, Bienvenido Nazario, or some of you know him, Ben Nazario.
She got lovely before her, right? Okay. All right. I see.
As a quick sneak peek of what to expect on today's episode, our guests are going to provide us a deep dive on what it takes to sell experiences within our industry, from the good, the bad, and the ugly, all the way from prospecting to nurturing new business and more. So I hope you're all excited for today's episode as I am. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
There you go. So we're going to go ahead and just kick it off real quick. I want the audience to get to know who the voices that they're listening to. So, of course, ladies first. Jazmine, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I've been with MC Squared for a little bit over a year and a half now. I feel like it flew by. But before here, I've worked within the industry for 3 years. I'm currently an associate sales account manager, which pretty much means I work like with the client. I'm always emailing them. I'm that contact person for them. And I'm there to I'm in the strategic planning stages of the projects that I work on. So whether that's, just making sure we hit those deadlines, making sure the right people are on the right job, and making sure that we all come together and we have the right team working on those projects. And then the larger jobs, they have me go on site and manage the client, make sure that everything runs smoothly. If anything were to come up, I'm just there to make sure the client's happy and the job gets done. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Excited to be here.
Huh?
And deal with
Ben. She works with me all day, every day.
Yeah, she played it really nice with you. She could have really thrown you into the fire.
She could have, yeah.
A lot, but it's no problem.
It's great.
Love it.
Ben, I know you got quite the story.
I got a story, but I don't know that you want to get into all that. So my role here as Chief Growth Officer, I'm involved in a lot of different things, but predominantly to understanding how we're going to grow our business, both organically and new business from working with new clients, new brands. I've been with the company on two tours. So my first tour was for 14 years. I left for 7 and I came back. I've been here 5 years now. So working with a big sales team, working with marketing and Bruno's team and sales enablement, working with the strategy team and some creative folks, and doing everything I can to help us continue to move the needle for this organization globally.
Marketing's your favorite, right?
Marketing is definitely not my favorite. Nope, not anymore.
So you actually have an awesome upbringing in terms of how you went into this industry. So kind of acting as a little young hustler out of the Bronx, right? And
Brooklyn,
I remember Brooklyn, and the story that you told me was...
You're not going to tell the story I told you.
I want you... No, go ahead. Go on, tell me how you started. Blueprints, come on.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm not going to give you that whole story. That's, but what I will say is that, it's almost like Karate Kid. Am I dating myself? Karate Kid?
Yeah, I know Karate
Wash
Kid.
on,
The
wash
original,
off.
the original
one, right?
Not
Wash on,
not
wash
Baby
off.
Will Smith.
Yeah, not that. I came into the industry at a very junior level, and predominantly my focus was finding new opportunities for a couple of salespeople, and that's what I did all day. And we didn't have Google back then because I'm significantly older, but it was really good training to help me understand how to speak to people and how to make those appointments, and then gradually learn how to go on those appointments and understood that. I also read a lot of blueprints. I would go into New York and pick up big rolls of blueprints, and I would bring the prints back and I would highlight the blueprints for construction purposes, and then I would manually write the description of what we were going to price out. So it really helped me to learn not just the sales side of the business, but also the fabrication side of the business. So it really did help me, give me that training and give me that underlying knowledge that I had no idea I needed, but it's been valuable. So that's, and from there, there's a lot more comes out of that. That story's for another podcast.
No, that's awesome. And you hit on that trigger word of relationships. right? So that's kind of where I want to segue into. And I think relationships is just such a broad term within what we do, right? There's the account relationship, there's your internal relationships within your company, there's a relationship with the customer and its journey and so forth. But focusing a little bit in terms of on the account side, how do you build some of your key relationships in today's spaces, right? Let's face it, and I'm speaking freely, you're the personality that walks into a room and you're shaking everybody's hand, right? And tell us a little bit about how you take it from the handshake to then nurturing an actual account relationship.
I can't tell everybody how that
Yes,
works.
you can.
So, you know, I believe that our job as salespeople, and I consider myself part of that team, it's the most difficult job in the organization. I know it's difficult to build things. I know design and creative is really tough. But what the salespeople do to try to help build relationships and find opportunities is unbelievably difficult. We talk about this a lot within our sales meetings, that most clients buy for 3 reasons: price, competitive price, great creative, and a relationship. And the relationship portion of that formula is where the salespeople really need to dig in. Relationships don't happen over a text message. Contrary to what some people might think, you really need to build a real solid, meaningful relationship with someone that if you want to do business with them or not. So I encourage our people, and I practice what I preach in finding ways to get to understand your clients and your prospects personally, know what their likes or dislikes are, how can you be of value to them, and stay in contact with them without being aggressive or pushy or annoying. Know where the boundaries are, and be someone that they can rely on. They can turn around and ask you questions for that they may need answers or help with. So I believe if you do something good every day without expecting something in return, good things are going to happen. But that has to come from inside, because if it's fake, everyone can see it.
Yeah.
So you have to genuinely like some people. You got to be someone that likes people. So, you know, that's not for everyone, Bruno. So you know, I think if I can give you some advice on that side for our listeners, I think that's something I would recommend is try to do something good for someone, you know, without expecting something in return. It'll come back to you later, maybe not in the next month, but maybe in 6 months. But I think that's building on your reputation and building on your brand and being someone that people can rely on and they can lean on. And I think that's how you build a better relationship.
Yeah. And I guess I'm going to go ahead and pivot to Jazmine on this one. In raising the expectation once an account actually comes into, you know, our portfolio, so to speak, what are kind of some of the challenges that you've encountered in order to go ahead and continue pushing that, you know, that positive element of making sure that the customer is always happy that Ben was just kind of referring to?
I mean, there has been times where, you know, we've encountered situations where timelines are tight and they have these high expectations because of the work that we've done in the past. And, you know, we do try and show we can do these kind of jobs and we can reach those expectations but with these timelines, it has created some sense of like struggle, and you start to second guess, like, okay, can we reach these deadlines? And that was kind of a struggle that I saw in a past project where it was a new client and they put all their trust into us, and we kind of had to, you know, push the limits and get a huge team on board and kind of work together and push. Like, we would work late nights, early mornings, weekends, and that was a struggle that we had to overcome just because it was so tight. And just seeing how much work we did in such little time, at the end of the day, it came together really well and the client was happy. And it was honestly one of our biggest successes. Like, it was a crazy project for me to work on because I've never seen something so big come from such a short period of time. So I think timelines was something that I thought was a struggle on my end. And having like that open communication with the client, updating them all the time, saying, okay, here we're at with this stage in the project, this is where we're at the second stage of the project, and just like keeping that open communication, building that trust. And then eventually, you know, they're like, okay, they trusted us fully and we got the job done. So
Tight deadlines with
Tight
Nazario.
deadlines, yeah.
What's
you know,
that like?
yeah.
In addition, there's only tight deadlines.
Yeah.
I think to add to that, the budgets that were being presented are still pretty aggressive. They're not big, fat, healthy budgets as perhaps in the past, and we're still being expected to provide quality, great creative, on time and within this schedule, and hitting those budgets. So I think that's something that it's not just something we're working with, but I think the brands, the client side, they're having to deal with that. I mean, it's just that's being brought down on them. This is not their decisions. They have to work with budgets that are being brought into their program. So, our job is to try to help them find solutions for that. Our job is to help them come alongside and help them to try to come up with an experience, how to tell that story, and how to make sure we hit that budget. So we've become very creative on how we do that, still keeping quality in check, right? So, but I understand it. I understand why it happens, and that's a big part of our industry is us being able to provide that kind of service and that kind of challenge and answer to that challenge. That's what makes us a better company, and that's what makes us a better partner. And I think it builds on that relationship.
And touching on that real quick, budgets and kind of seeing this. Some companies are, tightening their belts a little bit more, right? Now, do you think that is kind of like a ripple effect off of the COVID-19 pandemic era, or do you think companies are just trying to optimize a little bit more on the ROI and help that out?
I think it's a combination of all those elements. I think, this is a whole new time now. The pandemic put us in a completely different space. So not only were budgets cut, but programs were cut, right? So as those programs come back, some of the money comes back, but not all of it, right? So I think we may have been living a little bit too fat and happy pre-pandemic anyway. I think, there's a little bit of right sizing when it comes to what it takes to execute an event. The budgets are still good enough to get something great done. They may not be what they were, but they're still healthy enough that you should be able to come up with a creative experience. So I think it's about us challenging ourselves to be a little bit smarter, be a little bit more strategic in how we deliver a response, around that. But yes, the ROI is still important. Yes, they want to be more careful about how they're spending that dollar.
Yeah.
And they want to see a return, even more so now than ever, right? So, and unfortunately you have to measure, and there's a cost to measurement, right? So it's this crazy cycle. But I do believe if it's managed properly, you can get it all done. And to your point, budgets are not what they used to be.
Yeah. No, and I think ultimately you said it perfectly, right? And I think Jazmine also touched on it, is trying to at least see what the client objective is and getting there, no matter which way we get there, right? Whether it's, manipulating an LED wall here or cutting that floor size down by X, right? It's just ultimately trying to position that brand for success, right? And so that kind of rolls into the next question. And in your eyes, Jazmine, what you kind of touched on a project that had a short timeline. With the short window, you said that everything turned out great at the very end. So in your eyes, as an account manager, what is a successful project?
I think a successful project would just be building relationships, finding future opportunities with that client. I think once you complete a project and you lay out their goals and objectives, and once you guys all have a better understanding of what their goals and objectives are, if they reach those objectives, at the end of the day, I honestly think that's something that's successful. Also, just, building that relationship in the long run, which would lead to more opportunities for us. I think that's another way that would create a successful show, in my eyes.
And in speaking of successful show, can we just make note of the recent win over at CES?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, that's great.
I mean, that's fantastic. So,
Yeah.
I mean, in case anybody hasn't checked out our recent posts or news shared via exhibitor group, Jazmine and Ben were very close with an account of ours that actually landed on the Best of CES list and it was their first time at CES, which is awesome. I mean, me personally, I've been here for 3 years, and I've seen that happen already twice.
Yep.
Which is, I think, kudos to not only you guys, but obviously every individual that made up that team. Yeah. So do you want to give a shout out to that company?
To Luxottica? Absolutely.
You just did it.
Yeah, it was great. They did they put a lot of trust in us. They didn't know us, and they went with their gut, and they asked a lot of questions before they awarded it to us. But and they were great to work with. We worked with the folks over in Italy as well as the folks in the U.S. and it was definitely a challenge. But they're good people there. They're smart people there, and it came together really, really well. And I'm really happy. And I think that also is another level of success, right? When you can, to Jazmine's point, have a happy customer. But when you win an award like that, that really kind of checks that box, right? Yep. So I also think that social now has become a big part of how they measure their success. What you see out on different platforms really helps showcase the work that you've done, and I think that's a big part of helping create success.
Yeah.
So that's something that's been great for us as well, as heading up that side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think just to kind of wrap that up, we've right next to us, Luxottica, we also had Samsung and Hyundai Heavy Industries land on that list as well.
With our partner.
With our partner Chail Worldwide. And, we spoke a lot about that with Chris and Nicole in the first episode. So I think having you guys then join us in the second episode, the timing couldn't have been any better to go ahead and at least wave that flag. So, but in terms of the Luxottica exhibit, that booth was awesome. I mean, it looked beautiful.
It was designed by an agency overseas, and it was just really well done, and it just came together well. One thing to note, as you're aware, we had 19 projects at CES. So this was just one more project at the tail end of that show. Let's put that on top. So, being able to do that was a big deal. Kudos to the team, to the production team, everyone involved. We used multiple shops to do that. We had a great team. And that's what makes a difference, by the way, to us. I know you're going to ask that question at some point. Our people are what makes the difference in the organization. So, and, it sounds cliche, but it kind of is facts, So, it's the reason why we have people that leave and come back, like myself. It's because
I didn't want to say that.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that success of that project had a lot to do with the folks that had the can-do attitude and, really put an extra effort to make that happen.
You can't stress it enough that, some people think that, all right, now that the show is here, job is done, right? It's not. And I think that kind of segues a little bit to you, Jazmine, is there is constantly something to do around the project. And, CES as an example, that we were tidying up before the doors opened. We were tidying up in the middle of the night. So while people were sleeping, we were making sure that the brand was positioned in the best way possible, even if it's day 3 or day 4 of CES, it doesn't matter. And that was, I think, something that I personally have to give kudos to. I'm gonna push you aside, Ben, and I'm gonna put you into the light, Jazz. You and the rest of the account management team crushed it. The I&D team, everything, the project managers, the event producers, just crushed it day in and day out. And I think as a marketer, I personally, yes, getting these awards is awesome for content and pushing that out there and adding for the digital impressions and so forth. But I personally love the look that the look on each one of your faces when those announcements are made, right? You have people that are, Kelly, who was a big individual.
Shout out to Kelly Davis.
Yep. I told her
Melissa
the news.
Abbott. Shout out to Melissa Abbott. Shout out to Monty in Atlanta. Shout out to CJ in Atlanta.
Mike Counterman.
Mike Van Hoot. The whole team in Vegas, the labor guys.
A lot of people
Kiwi.
just stopped what
Shout
they were
out to
doing
Kiwi
and helped.
on the show floor.
Oh yeah, Kiwi.
It was.
I love him.
It really did take a village to do that job. It normally does anyway, but this one was extra, a little bit extra. So, but you're right. It's the account management team, the project management team. They did not miss a beat.
Yeah, and kind of to kind of wrap up that point, it's seeing, being told that your exhibit that you were a part of, is one of the top 20 exhibits out of 4,300 that exhibited at CES is a massive win.
Yeah.
And being able to actually tell each team member of that win is an awesome feeling.
Yeah.
It kind of like advocates to, all right, that's why we put the blood, sweat, and tear into making sure that that exhibit stood out. And I mean, and shout out to Emily over at Exhibitor Group. When I was giving her a tour of all of our exhibits there, could not stop raving about the way Luxottica's exhibit stood out. And
Thank you, Emily.
So it was, and of course, shout out to Ben's Glasses, Ray-Ban. You know,
Got to represent the brand. Yep.
There you go. So I guess kind of what I'd love to go ahead and do now is we've spoken about leading up to the project. We've spoken about the successes that Taylor out of the project, but then there's that in between, right? And there's the team that we deal with internally, especially you, Ben, the growth side of things, right? Within the company that has to do with marketing, that has to do with creative, but it also has to do with the SSEs. And I think every SSE that we've brought into this door, each has their career focus that they've really like excelled in, right? Some were fantastic at permanent installs. Some were great with experiential marketing. Some are great with proprietary events. Everything that we're tailoring our business strategy and targets to go after, right? On your end, how do you make sure, because let's face it, this industry is not easy and it's not for the weak-hearted. How do you make sure that everyone continuously wakes up and has that same strive, that same goal to hit on a Monday to a Friday and beyond that? How do you make sure that you keep your team motivated?
Yeah, that's great. Great question. SSE is a strategic sales executive, and we have a team of those around the country. Jessica Garvin is our VP of growth. She's very instrumental. She and I work together to try to push that team and help win business. There's only so much you can do to help someone get up in the morning and put the fight. They've got to have something inside.
Yep.
I can't help that. I can't teach that. I can't train that. They have to have that motivation. They have to be a self-starter. They have to be able to handle that rejection. And, you know, you win and you lose, and that's part of the process. And then how you handle that loss is what really makes a difference, right? How quick do you get up and get back on it? So, you know, being relentless and continuing to monitor your activity and being organized, those things are really critical. We have a meeting every 2 weeks with our team. Jessica and I we tag team working with different SSEs throughout the week, supporting them in their responses for RFPs, as you know, also helping them with projections and also helping them with targets, working with the HubSpot team, with the sales enablement team. So, you know, we do everything that we can to try to help that salesperson just build relationships. We do everything we can. This, in my opinion, as someone who's been doing this for 30 years, this is the best place to work if you're a salesperson. The number one place to work if you want to be in sales in this business is MC Squared. We have the program down. Your group, the sales enablement team, the design team, the creative team, we come around these things and put the whole thing together. And we help them with leads. We help them with HubSpot. I mean, we clean up all kinds of work for them. We do a lot of work for our salespeople. I wish this existed when I was just purely selling, because, man, I would have rocked it. I would have crushed it. This is a great place to work for as a salesperson, and we give them everything they need, and we motivate them, and with therapists as well, yes. And we do everything we can to try to help give them a reason. But at the end of the day, it's got to come from them inside.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So, but I don't know if that answers your question, but I don't know what else to say. You know, I could give them a pat on the back and say, get your ass up. Let's go. Ooh.
Bang. So let me go ahead and break the rule of the swear jar.
Oh.
You should have hit the button.
Where's your wallet, Ben?
It's on my desk.
Yeah, next time just let me know so I can just hit you with
Yeah. Woo. Sorry about that. My bad. PG.
All good. All good.
I got passionate and I just came out. I'm sorry. All right.
No, it's all good. So, you know, you kind of already well positioned our next question, and that was kind of giving any piece of advice to somebody that was interested in actually diving into this industry, right? Speaking on my end, hand to God, didn't even know that this industry existed
Me too.
3 years ago. Did not know. I was in the Salesforce realm. I was in that whole digital ecosystem. The majority that I was even acquainted with, but when it came to events like we do, would probably be Salesforce's Dreamforce or their world tours that they go.
Yep.
Because I would attend them, but I would attend them in a very small scale. So I didn't know the extremity of what it would take to do, 100, 120 exhibit.
Right.
Had no idea. So if you could give any piece of advice for somebody looking to get into this industry, what would it be? Jasmine.
No.
Aha.
Twist.
Surprise attack.
I mean, for me, again, I was the same boat. Like,
Come on,
I
tell.
had no idea. I had no idea about this industry or what it came with. And I think how I got into the industry is about just talking to my friends and just knowing who you know. My one friend, she introduced me to this. She was like, hey, do you want to, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And she goes, you want to come see what I do? And she brought me to my very first trade show, which actually was CES, which is so funny. That was like our Super Bowl.
Way to set the bar high.
So crazy. And I'm like, this is what you do? And I had no idea what it was about. And I saw just the chaos and the adrenaline, and it was just like the best show ever. But I saw it on her side. So I would say just ask around, like network, kind of see, like go to peers and see who you look up to, kind of ask around. I feel like there's so many people that know people in the industry that just networking, you'll find someone. And, there's always a job for someone, whether it's marketing, finance, account management. There's just something to do out the floor. And yeah, that's how I got into it. So I think that's something I would suggest to just talk.
What year of CES was that? Do you remember?
Oh, it was pre-COVID. I'm going to say 2019, right before COVID.
Ben's nodding his head saying, nope.
2018?
I think so.
2018?
You work so closely with Ben that he knows.
I guess.
Show. I know what show she was at.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was
So-
a cool show.
Did you go back to CES since then, or was this your first time back?
That was my very first show, and then I went into the industry, but with a different company. But I was never at CES with that company. So the first time back was when I was hired here, and then this past one was the very first one I actually attended. So
How was
it was
it?
like a full circle, kind of. I thought it was really awesome.
How was it? And be honest. Going there as an attendee, kind of just checking it out.
Yeah,
and
I was
then
living the
behind
life.
the scenes.
I was like, oh, we'll go to dinners and just hang out and not have to deal with everything. But then, because I was like the guest pretty much while she was grinding. And then I just was like, oh, maybe I could do this too. I started out lower and then as like an account coordinator with another agency. But yeah, it was definitely like a full circle moment for me to kind of work with CES and going to CES and not really knowing anything. And then now being top 20, with all these different projects there. I thought it was so cool.
It's kind of cool. It's an awesome success story.
Yeah, for sure. So
Ben?
if anyone has any questions, I'm the one.
Ben, your advice?
Advice. I've actually had these conversations with people. I try to talk people out of it. This is not for the weak, as you know. So it's not what people think from the outside. As they say, you see the prize at the end, but you didn't see the hustle that was required, right? You saw the end. You didn't see all the work that had to happen, with internally. But what I do my best to try to help them understand the difference between being on the brand side in this business and being on the agency side. I think it's...
What is it? Tell me.
Well, we're going to push the button. Runs downhill, okay? And we're at the bottom of the hill, okay? What I'm saying is when you're on the brand side, you have a team that you can turn to do a lot of the work and the heavy lift, and work on the weekends and work at nights and travel and leave your family behind, and all those things come on. That's the agency. That's what the agency does. And you're The brand side is a little bit different. It's a little more strategic. They have the ability to decide who they want to hire. It's just a different animal, and I encourage everyone, if possible, work on the brand side. Try to be on an events team at a good brand, and don't jump into the agency side unless you really want to do that. One of the benefits on the agency side is that you work in multiple accounts, right? So if you take a job at Salesforce, you're going to be working with Salesforce all the time, working on Salesforce events, which is great. But when you work on the agency side, you'll have a chance to work with other brands in other industries. So it may be a little bit more interesting, but you are going to work a lot. So I caution them, but my advice is do your homework. Do your homework. If you decide you want to work on the agency side, which is not bad, been on the agency side my whole life, I just want to make sure you look at both situations and then make sure you want to be on the agency side. Then decide who you want to try to work for. Do your homework. There's a lot of agencies in the industry, but there's probably only a handful you want to work for.
Yeah.
So make sure you're going down that path.
And by the way, that's an awesome thing that you brought up in terms of being able to work with multiple brands at the same time, because recently, and as you guys know, we kicked off our first ever internship program called the Squared Effect this summer in 23, and every single intern during that program mentioned that to me at least once, and it was absolutely kind of just flabbergasted at the number of different brands and different vectors and different sectors like that we've worked with. And it's honestly, and speaking on my end too, that was one of the most attractive things about MC Squared or the event space in general, is you can literally be working on a proposal pitch or stand-up pitch for, let's say, Nike. And then the next day you're getting an RFP from, let's say, a Microsoft or a Light & Wonder, and that was just the plethora of different brands that you're able to kind of really maneuver through. I think that should attract anyone, really.
Yeah, It's interesting. They see the glitz and the glamour, but
Yeah.
a lot of work when you get that RFP. You got to work on that, and then when you get the business, even harder. But I agree with you. I think having the ability to work with different brands and different industries it keeps them interested, right? It makes your job different. It makes it every day is a different day. So I think that is one of the key benefits of working on the agency side. So I agree with you on that. I think that's probably the best advantage is getting to see different brands and how they actually operate. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And I think going into, the work that goes into it, you always want to go ahead and be able to fine tune the processes and the procedures in order to make your life a lot easier, right? So that's kind of where I want to point to Jazmine now and talk a little bit about some of those key best practices that you've adopted into your day-to-day as an account manager, because honestly, your job is not easy because you kind of have to be the bridge between, almost the account owner and the project and internals and so forth. You're really the glue. So tell me some of your best practices. If somebody was interested in trying to become an AM within this industry or another, what should they tailor?
Yeah, so I think you just always have to be organized. You always have to just know what's coming, what projects are up and coming that month. Make sure your team is all on the same page and be able to delegate the right tasks to the right people. Whether it's, again, I brought up deadlines before, just making sure that we are on schedule. I think that's something that's kind of hard because I have so many projects going on at once, and just being able to communicate with everyone and saying, okay, this is due here, that this is due on this date, that's something that you have to be able to do. I also think financially, like when we receive a budget from someone, just being able to be realistic with them and saying, okay, this is what we're working with. Maybe take that money, put it towards this part of the project instead of, over-promising something, or be more efficient with your money, maybe using it this way, and kind of offer those solutions. And even just like being a problem solver, thinking on your toes, because there's been many times where issues have popped up and you have to be able to stop what you're doing, think fast, and come up with a solution. If you don't know the answer, be like, okay, I don't know the answer. Say, I have a team that might know the answer, and have that open communication with the rest of your team and say, okay, we have to fix this problem before it, becomes something larger. And I think that that's why I love working here, because everyone seems to, no matter what the issue is, big or small, at the end of the day, we have all come together and we're able to solve any issue. Like, I don't think we always get the job done. There's never been a time when there's been a problem and we're like, I don't know what to do. We just have such a good team that, we all think together and we come together and have some kind of a solution for any problem that arises. So I think that's something that was really important to be able to do.
So I'm going to put you on the spot, just like I did to Nicole and Chris on episode 1. And we obviously listening
This
to
is your
that.
thing, like you like to put people on the spot?
Yep.
Apparently.
That's your jam?
Yep. Absolutely.
Right.
So that you can see that Ben is very protective of Jazmine right there.
Just saying, why you got to put her on the spot? Okay,
Let's talk about a challenge that you've encountered working at MC Squared
Yeah. So I think,
without naming the
yeah,
brands.
obviously. I mean, there's been times where I have had to run to Home Depot multiple times and grab supplies if something happens. If, there's never.
How about Amsterdam?
Oh,
There's a lot of things that we can't talk about.
which one was that one?
The first job you went on when you got here.
Oh, what problem came up there?
I don't know. Was it Walk in the Park? In
No.
Amsterdam?
There's a lot of I guess in Amsterdam, that one was kind of crazy because I just started working here. And 1 week into working here, Ben was like, hey, do you have a passport? I'm like, sure, why? Well, you're going to Amsterdam. And I took a 9-hour flight to Amsterdam by myself.
A weekend,
Which it was fine. But
that?
it was a little crazy because in that.
You should love that. Do you know
No,
what
it
my
was
first
fun.
trip was here?
What?
I think it was Denver, and I was so excited because I never went to Denver. But they stuck me in one of the Gaylord resorts that's 20 minutes outside of Denver, closer to the airport for a week. I was so bummed. So you went to Amsterdam. Come on.
No, it was fine. There was a little bit of like culture differences.
Culture shock, yeah.
And it's funny because when I said, oh, I'm from America, they knew immediately just the way I acted,
You
I
think?
guess. Yeah. But there was like a couple cultural differences on the show, like the way people worked on the show floor, what they're allowed, what they weren't allowed to do.
Yeah.
There was some language barrier between like if I needed something and I had to work with the people on site, it was a little bit harder to understand them. And you're just working with a lot of different languages, cultures, and they all come together from around the world. And that's just one of the barriers that I found, which was a little bit hard to manage. But
you got to do it. Like if you're positioning ourselves as a global brand, you just have to do it, right?
yeah. And like finding if they needed something.
Yeah.
Like I think someone needed a steamer. That was the hardest thing to find because I didn't know what stores were around. It was hard to explain a steamer to. I don't know. It was something that was difficult, and just finding where a convenience store would be or what, like the languages, like finding on Google Maps. Let me find a convenience store, and then they're all in different languages, and then the signs, and I didn't know.
Why
But
didn't you bring your own steamer?
I do now. Now I steam
problem
everything.
solving.
There you go. That's
Now
what I'm here for.
I Amazon a steamer to
There you
every
go.
show. Fabric, steam everything. But yeah, that was just
Speaking of budget,
yeah.
Yeah.
That was something that I encountered. But it was a fun trip overall. I would definitely go again.
Ben, what about you? What is the most decorated challenge that you've ever encountered, and how did you?
I got a few.
Yeah, I know you do. That's why I looked right at you.
I guess I'll pick one also overseas. At MC Squared, we were awarded a project in Dubai.
Nice.
Long story, but the short version is we were the first agency to install an activation at a large hotel property on the Palm Islands at the Atlantis.
Awesome.
And said they weren't equipped to do a large installation. The paint was drying. So, and we were preparing an activation to be presented to the Sheikh of Dubai. And the designer created a very large scale mock-up of the city property. It was a real estate property, and there were these long, tall towers of the property, and so there were giant buildings that were basically a giant model on the floor that were illuminated, and it had to move into place. It was on tracks and had to move in.
Oh no!
And and listen, back then there weren't a lot of great shops in Dubai. We didn't have our office in Dubai then. We have one now, but we didn't have it then. So, putting that together and getting that to activate and having the pressure of watching that building move forward to the stage with the Sheikh sitting right in the front, and the building was pretty top heavy. So there was a one shot. There was no rehearsal. There was no let's run it and then do it again. No, it's going
live, baby.
And this building's coming forward, and it's coming forward on this track. There's custom track that was created. It didn't come from anywhere in Chicago. And this building gets to that certain point right in front of the Sheikh, and it stops.
No.
And it was like, and it moves forward and comes back. It goes forward and goes back. I was sweating. I was backstage, biting my lip. I mean, I was holding my head. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So it went off fine. No problem. No problem at all. It worked well. It was definitely scary. It's something I don't want to do again. It won't have that problem anymore in Dubai because now they know how to do things over there. But the funny part is when it was over, the Sheikh said he invited all of his staff to come over, and we had to do it again.
Oh, no.
He said, we do again. No, we're doing it again? Okay. All right, I'm leaving. I'm not going to be here for that one. So anyway, but that was definitely a moment in time. There were a lot of other challenges, but that one was pretty special with the Sheikh being right in front and the building getting ready to kill him. So it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, speaking of international, I know you have a show coming up with a few clients. One of them being Light and Wonder, if I'm not mistaken. The Australasian Gaming Hospitality Expo. I almost butchered that name.
You had to read it, yeah.
Yeah, I had to read it.
Yeah.
Say that fast.
Australia Gaming.
Times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about what it's like what's the one major difference between activating an exhibit trade show in the U.S. and international without the language barrier,
Right.
or the culture shock?
There's so many. It's apples and oranges. It's not even remotely close. It's a whole different world. No pun intended. It's just different. We happen to be fortunate that we have Expo Mobilia and we have MCH and we have boots on the ground, and those are our people, and so that really does help. But I know companies that don't have that really struggle finding really good quality labor. Most of the projects overseas are what we call build and burns, right? So over here, we usually build something, goes back in a crate, goes into a warehouse. Over there, it's a one and done. So
I was going to ask you about that.
yeah, most projects are like that. There's some that aren't, but for the most part, that's expected.
Now, we do recycle for our listeners.
We do. It's a big part of our. That's a big part of what we do at MCH. So I guess if I had to put my finger on one thing, it's the expectations of what brands and visitors are looking at. It's different than what we have here. So again, we're fortunate because we have people, and so we're guided now, and we have support. We kind of cheat because our people are there and they know what they're doing. So it helps us. But that's you have to know what the expectations are in that particular country. What's acceptable and what's not in terms of what you do.
Yeah, no, it's a valid point. Absolutely. And bring a steamer.
And
Yeah.
bring a steamer.
Always have a steamer.
Always. And a power, you have to convert the power. So
Oh,
Yeah.
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 There.
I know all about that. Remember when we went to Switzerland? Everyone used my generator. Yeah. All right, guys. So when I sent you kind of the spark notes for this podcast this week, I took a section out because it was going to be a surprise. Right?
Because that's what you like to do. You
This
try
is
to like.
no. This is a good one.
Like,
This
I don't
is
know why this is like. He gets off on that.
Yeah. Why don't we ask you a question?
Yeah, right.
you can ask me
Kind of like
anything
the
you
DJ
want.
over there with that DJ board there.
I do. Listen, that was a real good one. Look at that. So this event, I mean this section that of today's episode, I dubbed as Square Up, and it's going to be a fast round fire chat where I throw to each of you. I literally have, and don't cheat.
I'm
I know
not
you can
looking.
see my screen.
I'm not looking.
I will say one word or a keyword or a phrase or a title of something that has to do within our company. I'm going to go ahead and then ask you to tell me off the top of your head what is the first word that comes to mind for each one of these topics. So I'm going to let you, because I know Ben is a deep thinker. So I'm going to go ladies first.
All right.
All right. You ready for this?
I think so.
All right.
I'm not looking. Go.
Customer.
Happy.
Events industry.
Stressful.
Casinos.
Gaming. G2E.
Ooh.
Nice.
There.
Live marketing.
Events.
Business development.
Ben.
Social media.
Bruno.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect. All right, you did good. See,
Thanks.
that was good.
Was that good?
Yeah, that was
That's
incredible.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. All right.
Ben, you ready?
Go ahead.
CES.
Winners.
Oh, good one. Sales.
Winners.
Las Vegas.
CES.
Okay. G2E.
Light and Wonder, Konami, Inner Block. Long list.
There you go. Experiential.
Creative.
Pop-ups.
MC squared.
Oh, that was a go. Very nicely done. There you go. You did good as well.
There? Yeah.
There you go. Perfect.
Great.
That was fun.
See? Not so bad.
No.
You don't have to
easy.
be terrified.
Yeah. I wasn't terrified. Scaring me.
All right, guys.
I want to add something. If
Uh-oh.
we're done, there's some things that I want to add to the table, and this is for free. So
Okay.
I'd like to present some road tips, not just for salespeople, but for people in our industry at large that have to be on the road, which means everyone. But brand side, client side, as well as our people. Road tip number 1: stay an extra day. Okay, I've traveled everywhere, and I look back at all those travels these past 30 years, and the one mistake I made was not staying an extra day. We go to a show, we do the setup, we do the show, we do the break, and we got the first flight out of there. We want to get the hell out of there and go home. Well, guess what? You may never go back to Amsterdam again. You may never go back to Geneva again. You may never go back to Barcelona again. You may never go back to San Diego again. Stay an extra day. Make it your day. Check, especially if you're overseas.
Yeah.
Go see, go understand their culture. Go eat their food. Just take that extra day and learn a little bit about what's happening in that city and in that country. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2, pick an airline and run with that airline. Don't spread it out. Bite the bullet. If it's United, stay with United, no matter what. You're gonna thank me later. Pick a hotel chain, no matter what. You want to stay on Bonvoy, stay on Bonvoy, and get all the points you can get, because you'll be using them with your family and your friends.
Yep.
Never check a bag. That's number 3. Never check a
Do
bag.
say that a lot.
Don't check a bag.
You tell me that all the time.
Pack it up in a suitcase and a backpack. I'm sorry. How many shoes do you really need? Pack it. No, put it in one bag. Put it in the overhead. Don't do it. Bags get lost. You connect, but you got to wait. You want to wait for a bag in half an hour at McCarran in Vegas? That's not cool. You don't want to do that. My pet peeve, if you're going east to west, fly in the morning.
Uh-huh.
Don't fly in the afternoon.
Yep. You've told me that.
Fly in the afternoon. You're going to get there. It's going to be 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. You're going to go have dinner. You're going to go to sleep.
Yep.
charging your company a hotel night and a meal. What are you doing? Go in the morning, get a whole full day in.
Yep.
And then when you're flying west to east,
Fly at night.
leave at night.
No.
You don't have to take the red eye, Bruno. You
I
can leave
know.
at 4.
I know.
But then you can get a good night's sleep, kind of, and then you'll be ready for the next day. So that's just me. And if you don't do that, then you're cheating your company. Number 5, be prepared. I can't tell you how many people I've seen that travel. They are just not prepared.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't pack right. They forgot stuff. They didn't bring the right shoes. You know, they're going to walk a floor. Don't wear a brand new pair of shoes. You know, it's such a simple thing, but just really think about where you're going, what you're going to do, really be prepared before you jump on that plane and fly somewhere. And then you have to run to a store to buy something, or better worse, I don't have a power cord. Oh, I left my computer for the laptop. Be prepared. Right, so it's just about you taking some time before you go and thinking it through. Yep. And I think that those, and I have more, but you have to text me or call me, and I'll give you some more of those tips. But I think those are enough. Those are good. Like those?
I love them. I love
didn't
those.
say about that either, did I?
No, you didn't. I love this
Stuck it
little
in.
like wisdom hour with Bienvenido Nazario.
Okay.
No,
Well, this wisdom hour's over, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that is the perfect segue for us to go ahead and not only thank both of you for partaking in episode 2 of the Squared Away podcast by MC Squared, but I want to go and thank our listeners. And I'm your host, Bruno Silva. Have a great day.
Thanks, Bruno.
Bye.
Bye, guys.